Hello and welcome to our brand new show, Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. Russia launches a ballistic missile attack on Kiev, killing one after Ukrainian President Zelensky suggested peace talks with Moscow could include a territory swap. Concerns grow over Gaza ceasefire as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu orders troops to amass in and around Gaza in response to Hamas postponing the hostage release. UK's Keir Starmer government says it is toughening immigration rules to make it almost impossible for undocumented migrants who arrive on boats to later receive citizenship. Taiwan detects 62 Chinese military aircraft near its territory as 2 US ships sail through the Taiwan Strait. And Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto hosts Turkish President Erdogan. The two countries sign a series of agreements to boost trade and defense ties, including a joint venture to build drones.
India-USA friendship.
Modi, you're fantastic.
My friend, India's friend, Donald Trump.
Hello and welcome. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is en route to Washington, D.C. to meet with US President Donald Trump. Meetings and encounters between these two leaders have always had other world leaders watching closely. There have always been firm and long handshakes, warm hugs, shared laughter, a string of compliments, and much more. Every meeting between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been a great show of bonhomie between the two leaders. Trump has called Prime Minister Modi the nicest human being, while the Indian Prime Minister has referred to Trump as his dear friend. Since their first meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2017, their bond has only grown further, with joint appearances at mass rallies in Trump's stronghold, Houston, and Ahmedabad, a city in Prime Minister Modi's political home ground, Gujarat. But this meeting now will test the much-hyped bromance between Trump and Prime Minister Modi. It comes amid multiple looming issues between the two countries that are likely to be the top of the agenda for discussions between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump. Now, these are illegal immigration, tariffs, and trade. Let's begin with a focus on illegal immigration. Fulfilling his campaign promise, Donald Trump launched a mega crackdown on illegal immigration on day one in office. Trump had earlier said that Prime Minister Modi, in a phone call, had assured him that India will do what is right on the matter. Last week, America deported 104 Indian migrants in shackles on a 40-hour military flight. Hundreds of other Indian nationals are expected to be deported, with discussions expected on managing their return. Now this after images of handcuffed and chained deportees on the flight prompted anger in India. Now Prime Minister Modi is also likely to push for expanding the H-1B visas, which are vital for the Indian IT workforce in the United States. Earlier, Trump had expressed support for the H-1B visa program, saying that America's tech sector needs skilled foreign workers. Next on the agenda, tariffs. US President Donald Trump has been planning a system of reciprocal tariffs. He said, and I quote, "If they charge us, we charge them." Now, Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Trump comes just after the US President announced 25% tariff on global steel and aluminium imports into America. Now, this is expected to slash India's steel exports to the US by a staggering 85%. Trump has already launched trade action against Canada, Mexico, and China. He warned of tariffs against the European Union and the UK too. But preempting his tariff plan, India has already cut duties on a range of US goods, including high-end Harley-Davidson motorcycles. New Delhi is considering tariff cuts on other products, including electronics and chemicals too. Next on the agenda is trade. Trump has been vocal about a fair trade relationship. In recent years, Prime Minister Modi's government has shown a growing willingness to pursue trade deals. The US is India's largest trade partner as of 2024. However, India ranks 10th in the list of US trading partners. The bilateral trade between the US and India stands at a record $129 billion in 2024. The trade deficit between India and the US is widening, with the US importing $45.7 billion more from India than it exported there in 2024. Now, US imports from India accounted for about 2.7% of all imported goods last year. Donald Trump may also call on India to buy more American oil. In 2021, India was the top destination for American oil exports. This changed after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which then prompted New Delhi to buy discounted crude oil from Moscow. Countering China-Ukraine war, Chabahar port, nuclear energy, and technology and artificial intelligence are other key topics that the two leaders are likely to touch upon. Now, Prime Minister Modi is also expected to meet several members of the Trump cabinet, US business leaders, and the Indian diaspora in America. A meeting with SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk is also likely. While Prime Minister Modi's visit to the White House can be seen as a sign of growing India-US partnership, the immediate mission of this trip could be to avoid trade ties from spiraling into a tariff battle. And in the world of automakers, US President Donald Trump's repeated threats to open the tariff floodgates against Canada and Mexico are being blamed for unleashing chaos in the American auto industry. In the latest, Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, said that if President Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico go into effect, it will be a disaster for American automakers doing business around the world. Speaking at a finance conference, the CEO of the second largest American automaker said that the Trump administration has created a great deal of policy uncertainty with its ever-changing tariff policies. Farley said that a 25% tariff against Canada and Mexico would blow a hole that the US industry has never seen. Farley suggested that due to Trump's policies, the US automakers risk falling behind their global competitors from Japan, South Korea, and Europe in the global street fight for electric vehicle transition. He said that Ford is experiencing a lot of cost and chaos due to Trump administration's tariff threats and supposed hostility toward electric vehicles. The Ford CEO added that manufacturing costs go up even if tariffs are simply rumored. Ford chief executive also warned of potential layoffs due to Trump's electric vehicle manufacturing policies. He added that if the Biden-era subsidies as part of Inflation Reduction Act are repealed, many jobs at Ford's new electric vehicle manufacturing sites in Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and Tennessee will be at risk. Now, Farley's outspoken criticism against Trump's proposed tariffs come ahead of his visit to the capital, Washington, D.C. According to reports, the Ford CEO is scheduled to meet a number of members of the U.S. Congress to build support against Trump's potential tariffs. Ford makes several vehicles in Mexico, including the Maverick pickup and Mustang Mach-E electric SUV. The automaker also manufactures several of its auto engines in Canada. Now, according to reports, Ford has a whopping $35 billion worth exposure for its vehicles and auto parts that move into the United States from Mexico and Canada. Last week, President Donald Trump suspended the proposed 25% tariffs against Canada and Mexico, but Trump has not eliminated levying these tariffs as a possibility. This has kept several US-based automakers, including Ford, on edge. Meanwhile, in the latest, President Trump announced 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports, which will go into effect next month. Reports citing industry leaders say that these tariffs may drive up car costs around the world. This, alongside with the looming threat of increased tariffs on Mexico and Canada, has stoked a huge wave of concern in the automobile industry. When the CEO of a major global automaker flags lots of costs and chaos, the whole world pays attention. Trump's tariffs not only threaten the atmosphere of innovation that he promised during his presidential campaign, but also put the US companies at a disadvantage against their competitors from around the world. And shifting focus to Italy, where Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's fight against organized crime claimed a massive success. The Italian police carried out their biggest crackdown against the Sicilian mafia in decades. Police arrested 180 suspected members of Sicily's Cosa Nostra, the infamous criminal gang active in the region since the mid-19th century. The massive police operation involved more than 1,200 officers. It was also the culmination of nearly 2 years of investigations, including extensive wiretapping. Police said that the suspected gang members were charged with various crimes, including drug trafficking, attempted murder, extortion, and illegal online gambling, among others. Now, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called the crackdown a very hard blow to the organized crime and a result of her fight against criminal gangs. The Prime Minister pointed to one of the wiretaps of the arrested gang members, which claimed that Italy has become an uncomfortable country for the members of Cosa Nostra gang. Meloni said that the fight against the mafia has not stopped and will not stop, and she will ensure the decisive defeat of criminal gangs in the country. Now, the massive crackdown against organized crime has put the spotlight on Italy's Cosa Nostra criminal gang. Cosa Nostra, which literally means our thing, claimed critical influence over legal and illegal businesses in Italy's Sicily for the second half of the 20th century. Mobsters, primarily led by Cosa Nostra, terrorized the Sicilian region for decades, mostly through extortion and drug trafficking. The group's influence strengthened in the 1960s after some gang members immigrated to the United States to expand their drug trafficking operations. But a harsh crackdown in the 1990s and early 2000s dealt a critical blow to the group's capabilities, as many of its top bosses died or went to prison. Its once tight grip over Sicilian society relaxed. In 2023, Cosa Nostra's most wanted godfather, Matteo Denaro, was arrested in Italy's Palermo. He died in prison months later, but Cosa Nostra did not end with the death of its godfather. In recent times, as Cosa Nostra members returned to Sicily after serving long-time prison sentences, they were found to have resumed their criminal activities. Now, this included fresh recruitments and attempted revival of old mafia relationships. Investigation by the Italian authorities also revealed that Cosa Nostra's ability to revive and a worrying sense of appeal among the younger generations. The released members of mafia are reportedly trying to recreate the army of the past. Time and again, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has emphasized her commitment to not just combat, but decisively defeat organized crime. But as mafia gangs, especially Cosa Nostra, attempt to reorganize, the denounced glamour associated with these groups continues to influence the young Italians. Will Prime Minister Meloni prevent these gangs from recreating the army of the past? And Japan has long been a dream destination for travelers, offering everything from ancient shrines and futuristic cities to cherry blossoms and sushi that puts your local spot to shame. The country is gearing up for yet another tourist influx in 2025. After a record-breaking 36.9 million international visitors in 2024, while the economic boost is undeniable, not everyone is thrilled about Japan's global popularity. For residents of the Golden Route, that is Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, mass tourism is no longer just an economic windfall. It's a daily disruption. Now, public transport is bursting at the seams, neighborhoods are turning into 24/7 party zones, and sacred spaces are being treated like Instagram backdrops. Some visitors, unfamiliar with Japan's deep-rooted cultural norms, have left locals frustrated with their behavior, ranging from public drinking to vandalizing historical landmarks. The Japanese media has highlighted a string of tourist transgressions. For example, a US visitor was arrested for scratching graffiti onto a wooden gate in Tokyo's historic Meiji-jin shrine. A Chilean influencer filmed herself doing pull-ups on a sacred torii gate. A tourist in Nara was caught kicking a deer because apparently respecting wildlife is optional for some. The sheer volumes of visitors is threatening the very tranquility that draws people there in the first place. To curb the chaos, Kyoto has rolled out the Tourism Code of Conduct. It urges visitors to be more mindful of local customs. Express buses now shuttle tourists between major attractions. This is to ease the strain on public transport. Multilingual apps are being introduced to help people to get real-time travel information. Himeji, home to the UNESCO-listed White Heron Castle, is considering a foreigner-specific entrance fee hike. Now, lessons from the rest of the world. Experts believe that Japan should look at global tourism hotspots like Venice, Barcelona, and London for solutions. Now, they think that the tourists will always visit Tokyo and Kyoto, no matter the number of times that they have visited the country. The real challenge is to encourage tourists to explore lesser-known areas where tourism is actually needed. The Japanese government has set an ambitious goal of 60 million visitors annually by the year 2030. This is an eye-watering figure that has many wondering if Japan, particularly Kyoto, can handle the load. Experts say the key lies in redistributing tourists to rural regions, where they can experience a more authentic Japan without trampling over its iconic spots. Measures like a tourism tax could help fund much-needed infrastructure and guide training, ensuring visitors And that's all we have for you on the show for today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT. Only on Firstpost.
We're calling the show Vantage. We hope you like what we put together for you. Touted as the minimum defense from that video. India's neighbors were the first to send the special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout the city. Hindu Mandir in we're on our way to Tel Aviv. City measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Togwe. Welcome to
60% of the world's
office. Prime Minister Modi did the iron.
we were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote efforts. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion. 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.